What's up, everyone? I'm Kevin. This is the In My Head podcast. Thank you so much for taking the time to check this episode out. As always, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel or give us a rating and a review on whatever podcast platform you're checking out. And more than anything, if you know somebody that this would help, please share it with them. We talk about so many different topics of mental health and wellness and physical health and well-being. Today we talk about addiction, and I'm so excited to share this episode with everybody. But before we jump into it, we have two people we've teamed up with. The first one is BetterHelp.com. So they offer online therapy in the comfort of your own home. And so you can change your therapist at any time. There's no contract, so you can try it literally one session and see if it works for you. But they're offering our listeners 1 free week of online therapy. So if you go to BetterHelp.com/InMyHead, you can get that offer and get a free week of online therapy. See if it works for you. I'm a big proponent of therapy, and I'm excited that they're teaming up with us to offer this to our listeners. The next one is CBD MD. Big proponent of CBD. I've talked about it ad nauseum on this podcast. And so they offer tons of different products, from tincture oils, bath bombs, sleep aids, inflammation balms, and all different things. They offer CBD products for pets. So check them out, cbdmd.com. You can type in the promo code IMH15, and that'll get you 15% off your entire order. The key thing with CBD products, you'll find there's hundreds of them out there. So the most important thing is getting it from somewhere that's organically sourced. And these are in the US, and it's just a quality product. They sponsor lots of athletes. And so I'm really pumped on what they're doing and glad they're teamed up with us. So cbdmd.com, and then type in the promo code IMH15, get 15% off your entire order. All right, this episode, I'm really pumped on this episode. It's a topic we've covered a little bit about addiction. This one is a completely different, along the lines of addiction, but it's talking specifically about pornography addiction and sex addiction. And I teamed up. I had Jerry Jorgensen on this episode, who has dealt with this herself with her own husband, who they discovered had a porn addiction that was affecting his previous marriage, the marriage with Jerry, his business. It was affecting in all different aspects. And she talks a lot about the shame that is attached to addiction in general, that it's rooted in trauma, in mental illness, and all these different struggles. So they went through this. He got into an inpatient program. One thing that's not covered on this podcast that we talked about this after we finished, but we didn't go into this, but he actually made 3 attempts on his own life because of the story you tell yourself with addiction, that you're not good enough, and the shame and all of that. And so they went through this in their own marriage. He got inpatient treatment in recovery and continues to do therapy. And they came out of this and decided to start their own treatment center called Desert Solace that treats specifically pornography and sex addiction. And it's really amazing. The one thing I've met so many people through this podcast that have gone through this type of trauma and decided to turn around on the other side of it and figure out a way to help other people. And I'm so pumped on what Jerry and her husband Mark are accomplishing, and the people that they're reaching out to. They have people from all over the country coming to their center, and in, I think she said, 6 different countries. So I'm really pumped on what they're doing, and I'm so glad for the time she took to come to our podcast and talk about the good things they're doing, their own struggles with going through this, the tension in their marriage, how they worked through it. And this can be applied not just to pornography addiction, but every addiction in general. She talked about there's rooted shame and trauma and all these things. And the key thing to do, just like with mental illness, the first step is to open up to somebody you can trust and take that step of courage and go from there and just move forward. Don't live in the past. Don't live in the future. Just take today and take the necessary steps to start your recovery. And one of my favorite lines that she used in this podcast was, the opposite of, the opposite of addiction isn't sobriety, it's connection. And so she talked about with addiction, there could be somebody who looks at pornography casually and they don't think that it's hurting them. But she talked about she just asked the simple question, like, is it helping you or is it hindering you? Is it helping your marriage or is it hindering your marriage? Is it allowing you to connect with other people or is it hindering from that? Those are the questions you can ask yourself when struggling with something. And I'm just grateful for her wisdom, the time that she took to chat with us, and I'm really excited to share this episode with all of you. Please reach out to us if you want to share your story on these types of things, or especially Jerry and her husband Mark have this treatment center called Desert Solace, and I'm so excited about what they're doing. You can reach out to them. That's the very first step. She mentioned when you call their treatment center, they're the ones that answer. You talk to them, and there couldn't be a radder group of people than them, and I'm excited that people are getting access to people with their experience and their kindness and their giving nature. So thank you so much for listening and checking this out, and I really appreciate Jerry's time, and I had such a great time chatting with her. So please welcome Jerry Jorgensen.
In My Head is a free-form discussion podcast where we talk about issues of mental and physical health and well-being. This is not meant to be a diagnosis or treatment plan, but rather a place to share real stories and insights from professionals and people who have or are battling mental illness. We hope to create a community where people feel comfortable and happy with who they are. Hopefully this is helpful for you, and please share it with others. Thanks for listening.
3, 2, 1. All right, I'm here with Jerry. Jerry, thanks so much for being on the podcast. I'm really pumped.
It's fun to be here.
We were talking about this before we started, but I've literally had 3 different people recommend you should be here. And while this tends to be conversations about mental health, I've always wanted to do one geared on addiction, because they go hand in hand with trauma, mental illness, addiction. So that's what we're here to talk about. Good. We're going to talk about your experience with it, with your spouse, and how you've taken this story, created something awesome in a business called Desert Solace, right?
Desert Solace.
Or sorry, yeah, Desert Solace.
It's Solace, but you know, Solace works, but it's Solace.
There we go.
Which means we live in the desert, and solace means peace.
I love it.
So that's what we're after.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. When we lived in California, so everyone here says Zion's National Park, and everywhere in California was like Zion.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, which is right? And I was always like, well, probably how the majority of people say it, but it's kind of a local thing. You say it how the locals say it.
And
like
then they'll say Nevada.
Nevada.
It's Nevada.
Nevada.
I mean, yeah, I know.
Nevada.
It's all good.
Nevada sounds fancy.
Yeah, it does.
Nevada. So you're a big mountain biker. I wanted to talk about that first.
Okay.
That's something I
don't know how big I am. I took this up at age 64. Who takes up mountain biking at age 64?
How many times a week do you go?
4 or 5.
I'd say you're I'd say you're legit.
Yeah, I love it.
And I mean, you say you're 64, but you take like tumbles every week.
Not every week. Sometimes I stay upright.
Yeah,
but I keep pushing myself and go, oh, I can do that.
Yeah.
And sometimes I do, and sometimes I tip, and it's all good.
Tough.
Yeah.
Because it hurts to fall.
A little bit.
I told you, we talked the other day, and I told you how I had the clip-in pedals and immediately switched to platforms because I took some tumbles.
It's too scary to get out of there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also, like, for me, I told you this already, but I got the platforms because I was only doing 50%. If I thought I was going to fall, I would hurry and unclip and get off. And mountain biking's like, when we came back here from California, surfing was like, first it was skiing and then surfing, and I was like, I need something that will replace that. And I was surprised how everyone was like mountain biking and climbing here. And I was surprised how those two
were way up there.
Yeah, I realized more and more I need a sport that puts me in a environment that I'm enjoying.
Absolutely.
I get this nature aspect as well as
I get older, and my husband's a golfer. I go, well, maybe I should golf. So I took like 3 rounds of golf lessons, and I went, this is not it. This is way too slow for me. And I know, I'll mountain bike. So
golfing brings out the worst parts of me too.
Well, yeah. You're just going to get more frustrated.
It's fun with friends and stuff. I usually do well for 2 holes, and then 7 holes, I'm like...
I'm out.
Yeah. Wrap a golf club around a tree or something.
Exactly.
But well, that's cool. Man, we got to get out sometime. You got to show me how it's done.
Well,
but
we would just go have fun.
There we go.
We would just go have fun.
Yeah. So you have an interesting history as far as education and your work and where you came from. You told me a couple of different things.
Yeah.
You got a master's, but you taught in the Department of Defense in Germany. So how did you end up there? Like what?
I just thought, I really want to see Europe.
Yeah.
But I mean, I really want to see it. So I think I'll live there. Well, let's see. What can I do? Oh, I'll apply to the Department of Defense, dependent schools, and see if I can get hired. And I did. And I had my choice between Japan and Germany. And I just wanted Europe.
Yeah.
I just really wanted to see Europe.
Yeah.
So I taught there for several years, just had a blast.
I've heard amazing things about Germany. I've still never been.
It's clean and it's beautiful and it's fun.
Yeah.
But gosh, I was there when the wall came down.
Whoa,
so
really?
So this was a long time ago.
Early 90s.
This was in
when
the
you were there,
was I was there 89 through 91.
Whoa.
So yeah, went through Desert Storm, and I was teaching on a base school, so I had to check for bombs in the gym. I was a PE teacher.
Yeah.
Coach every morning. They put mirrors under your car before you could come on base to check for bombs.
What?
It was a little bit stressful, but it was just like, yeah. If I go out with a bomb, oh well.
There
Okay,
we go.
I'm in Germany. This is cool.
Wow, what a time to be there.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Were you ever scared, or was it just like normal day life?
A little bit, because I had 2 daughters at the time, and a little bit edgy just because they had armed guards on their school buses.
Whoa,
and armed guards roaming the school because we were at war. Thank goodness it only lasted like 60-something days. So we were all good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, that's scary, but awesome.
It was
everything worked out.
Oh, yeah. It was an experience for sure.
So how old were your kids at the time?
4 and 8.
Yeah.
When we went over. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
What a cool experience.
It was cool. I know. I put them in German schools so they'd be fluent.
Yeah.
And they were. And then I got lazy in my German because I go, "What'd they say, honey?" And they could tell me. It was awesome.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it was great.
So you have 8 kids.
8 kids together, correct. Yes.
That is awesome.
Yeah, and 8 grandkids.
That's impressive. And 8 grandkids too. Cool.
Yep.
So what was that like, managing 8 kids? I've
you
got
know
4.
what? You know how I know, right? A lot of it is just, and I don't know if I inherited this from my parents, but I just have been able to roll with things that are thrown my way, and not that they've been easy. I mean, I have twins with cerebral palsy.
Yeah.
This is my second marriage. First marriage was not good, but I'm just really, really focused on really being present and living. And we teach that all the time in our addiction treatment center about live present. You know, you have the regret of the past and the fear of the future. Neither one of us serves anybody to live there.
Right.
So I've just really gone, okay, well, this is what's today, and without catastrophizing and going into the future too much. So that's been a big blessing in my life, that I've just been able to do that. And now that I'm in recovery, now I get the reasons why that's so critical.
You feel you've always had that trait?
I think I have. I think it was my dad.
Oh, okay.
He just rolled with stuff. I mean, he had financial disasters. He was a little bit of a gambler with land and getting into gold mines and stuff. And we lost several homes. And it was just like, we're moving again. You know, my mother didn't handle it very well. No, she did. She handled it pretty good. But anyway, so I've just been able to roll.
Yeah. Well, that's great.
So then when I found out that my current husband, we just celebrated our 20th wedding anniversary, had a pornography addiction, I went, well, that's not going to work in my life. That's not going to work for me. But I'm willing to take this journey with you, but I am not living with someone in addiction.
Right.
I was just really, really clear. I'm also really clear about boundaries, and that's something that I teach the wives that I coach. We'll get into that later, as I'm the family liaison for our center, but teaching them that boundaries are critical, and boundaries aren't punishment. Mm-hmm. They are for our safety.
Yeah.
Because you can't control anyone.
Right.
And they get to learn that. Well, I'm going to do this and this and this. I go, no, that's not, that's control.
Right.
Look at it, is it control or is it a boundary?
Well, and that's where a lot of mental illness, anxiety especially comes from, is not feeling like you can control each situation, past, present, future.
Yeah, you can't. So just, the sooner we get out of that mindset, the healthier we'll be.
Yeah. A therapist was just talking to me about this, about responsibility minus control equals anxiety. So you have these responsibilities, but you're trying to control each one of them individually.
Nope, you let it roll.
Yeah.
I love the analogy of just a river running, and just let that river run. Let those emotions come. Feel them. Don't avoid them. Don't numb, because that's what leads to addiction. But when we just let them roll, they're going to come and they're going to go.
I like that analogy
and
a lot.
then you just, it's just like a river. Because if we try to hold on to it or get it stuck, build a dam around it, it's going to get toxic, it's going to get stinky, it's going to get painful.
Yeah.
So that's why, really, the Frozen Let It Go. It's really more than that silly
sing
song.
A verse for us,
I
right?
will not sing a verse for you. But that really letting it go and letting things that are painful in our life, if we hang on to them, the pain just increases tenfold.
Right.
So
I love that analogy because you can take that so many ways, like the rapids that pop up, the rocks.
Absolutely. Oh,
enjoy the calm parts when you can, and look
then,
around.
And if you're me, enjoy the, oh boy, here we go. We're going straight down. Yeah. We're at lunch counter on the Snake River.
Yeah. If you do what you can, and then if it gets calm, if you need to pull off to the side and
then you
chill on the beach for a bit.
And if you fall out of the boat, get back in.
There you go. Yeah. Yeah. Keep a life jacket on.
And yeah, life jackets are good.
There you go.
For sure.
So I want to save the end to talk about the business.
Great.
But I do want to you got into that. It's strictly pornography addiction therapy, correct?
Well, not strictly. That is our focus.
Okay.
So pornography and sex addiction. A lot of people ask me, well, what's the difference? Well, pornography is just part of sex addiction.
Right.
It's pornography is, I like to call it the gateway drug, just like a lot of people call marijuana the gateway drug to harder drugs. Usually people just don't jump to meth or heroin.
Right.
There's been an escalation with alcohol, with pot, that kind of stuff. And it usually starts with pornography. And there's a couple of reasons for that. Number one, it's so accessible. You know, and with the iPads and the phones, and we're just giving our kids a loaded gun.
Right.
There just has to be some parenting going
on
there.
If we could define that, because there's probably people listening that's like, what's the difference between pornography addiction and, because for me, I hear it, and there's, disclaimer that neither of us are carrying any judgment with what people do. But for me,
absolutely no judgment.
What's the definition with like someone saying, well, in our relationship, we just openly look at pornography. It's a leisure thing.
And this is what I would say. Is this drawing you guys closer together? Is it building connection? Or is it counterfeit?
Oh, okay.
And that's what, so I look at it, we don't look at things as right, wrong, good, or bad.
Yeah.
Is it working for you?
Yeah, I like that.
And I would say for a lot of wives that I talked to, they were their husband enrolled them into that, because then he's covered. Well, she's doing it with me, you know, instead of isolating himself. So we are not judgmental. We want people's lives to work. And oftentimes that, especially if they're trying to hide it or lie about it, or they're spending money on it, that they're lying to their spouse. And wives can be involved in this too. It's not just a men's problem. And we get more and more calls from women, I need help.
Yeah.
I'm addicted to pornography. And people think, oh my gosh, how could you ever go to pornography? It's just another place to hide.
Yeah.
It's another place to avoid, to escape, to numb the pain. It's all about pain. And then they may act out. And it could be drugs, alcohol, food, shopping. There's so many ways to avoid. Some are more socially acceptable than others. And with pornography and sex addiction, that has such a stigma because it's of a sacred nature of what we think of, you know, that we think, okay, you know, we're sexual beings. And it's really critical that we have good sexual relationship.
Right.
I like to say, I like monogamy. But because once you get away from that, you're losing connection. You're losing trust. And I think I mentioned with you on the phone that we say the opposite of addiction is not necessarily sobriety. It's connection.
Yeah.
And so, because I've seen a lot of...
I would repeat that, because I wrote that down when you told me that on the phone.
Oh, good.
I think it's so powerful.
It is good.
You just repeat that for us.
I will. The opposite of addiction is not sobriety. People think, well, if I just don't act out, then I'm good. But some people's lives are still a crap fest. I mean, they're still not working. So the opposite of addiction is not necessarily sobriety. Sobriety is part of it, but the opposite of addiction is connection. It's connection to themselves, recognizing who they are at their core, without all the masks and all the stories and all the stuff that we put on ourselves. And so it's connection with our loved ones, with our spouses, with our kids. We have guys that graduated our program and go, oh my gosh, my kids know who I am now.
Right.
Because I'm present.
Right.
Because I'm clear. And, you know, even, you know, a connection with God or a higher power or however, you know, however they want to label that.
I like how that's all encompassing addiction as its own entity and why people do it.
It's just escapes.
And things like that. Do you feel pornography is different from other addictions, or as far as why people tend to do it? Is it, you mentioned escape, hiding, those types of things. Is it they feel unfulfilled in a certain way and they're trying to fill it with something that's a little empty? Or
usually addiction of all kinds is I'm not enough.
Yeah.
I'm just not enough. I'm not enough for God. I'm not enough for my parents. I don't measure up to my siblings. I'm not enough for my wife. I'm not enough at work. I'm not enough, over and over and over again. As far as with the pornography, the reason that one has taken off is the accessibility.
Right.
It's so accessible, and you don't have to go find a dealer. You don't have to, it can be very isolating, and you don't have to go into the liquor store. Someone might see me. But a lot of people have turned to other addictions. I call it whack-a-mole. You know what, Lagoon? You know, where the things that pop up. Man, I just got this one down and this one's popped up. That's because the core issues have never been addressed.
Right, okay.
And the core issues are usually trauma of some sort. And I want to touch on trauma a little bit, because some people think that trauma has to be this huge event where there was molestation, there was abandonment, there was, or a huge accident, a natural disaster, or whatever. It can be, trauma can be as maybe insignificant as my dad didn't show up for my ball game, or he didn't come to my band concert, or I got turned down for a date. Because it's not necessarily the event that happens to us, it's the stories that we make up about it.
Whoa,
like oh gosh, okay, I got turned down for this. Well, what does that say about me? Instead of just, I got turned down. Next.
Yeah.
But people don't, their brains don't work that way. We internalize it and go, what does that say about me?
Right.
Oh my gosh, that says about me that, well, if he doesn't want to go out with me, no one's going to want to go out with me, because I'm, you know, and then we just beat ourselves up. I'm too fat, I'm this, I'm this, and they just go on and on. I'm not smart enough, whatever. And that's where the pain hits. That can be the trauma. And then they act out. And we can call it acting out in a lot of ways. Drug, alcohol, pornography, sex, eating, whatever. And then they feel like a piece of crap again because they've acted out. The pain comes in again. What do they do to relieve the pain? Act out again.
Right.
That's what we call the addictive cycle.
Right. Wow, that's powerful, because I feel like every person reacts to scenarios differently.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the lucky people that can roll with it are very, very fortunate. But a lot of us don't do that. We make up stories about every single. She looked at me weird. She must not like me.
Yeah.
I mean, and it starts young.
It
starts on the schoolyard in elementary school, or it could start in a home. It could start before you're born.
Yeah.
DNA could be passed through.
That's where mine was. Mine was like painful to even like, oh, I gotta get up and sharpen my pencil. And so, you know, in class, that thought of like, I got to walk across the class, and my thought was like, everyone's looking at
you and judging you.
Well, and I didn't have any reason to feel that way, because I had good friends, I had family and all these things, but I just naturally was like, every step I was conscious of like what I must look like right now. And
we do that to ourselves all the time. Yeah. It's very common.
What, so maybe enlighten us on your own, and share as much or as little as you want to share.
I am an open book.
Of your own personal experience, like how you came across this, and what the first inclinations of it, and and what.
So I knew that something was really off in my marriage, but I didn't know what it was. I knew we were not really connected. I mean, he was great, he was funny, he was a good provider, but part of that, him being a provider, was part of his mask. We were driving cars and living in a house we had no business being in. I didn't know that. But if he showed from the outside that everything was okay, then he must be okay when he wasn't okay. So he was exposed to pornography around age 11 or 12. And he said it was just, that grabbed me like nobody's business. Now, he's grew up with, you know, would never smoke, would never drink, would never take drugs. I mean, I didn't know if he swore back then. He does now because he has to live with me, but that's another story. But
he's let it fly a little bit.
Exactly. But you know, so when he got exposed to it, it really did grab him. Now, was he an addict at that time? No. But as he kept viewing, and back then, it was Playboys. I mean, it was magazines. What's on the internet now and on our mobile devices and stuff is way beyond that. And so what our kids are seeing, and now they're saying that first exposure usually is around 5 or 6 years old.
Whoa.
And again, that doesn't mean that there's an addiction, but if that does become an addiction, how do you know if it's an addiction? If it's getting in your way of living your life.
Right.
If that's that thought process that just keeps, running through, I'm feeling pain, I've got stress about a test, I've got this, that's an easy way to act out, because you can, a lot of men tell me that, they're going to look at a computer, and girls might be scary, but those girls are never going to turn me down, and they're smiling and they're naked.
Right.
So it's just, it can grab hold, and men are very visual. Women are more along a storyline,
right.
or they want, just the emotional attached more than the visual. And that's not a blanket statement.
Right.
It can mix in there. But anyway, so it just grabbed him, and he fought that and fought it and fought it and fought it, and then he got caught by his dad, and that was ugly. And as parents, that could be a whole nother podcast just on parents, how to deal with when you
That was going to be my follow-up question.
Oh, okay. Well,
kids. I mean, maybe just a quick segue before we get back to your story.
Absolutely. Quick segue is that if you find your child looking at pornography, you've got to start talking about it early. How early? 2 or 3 years old, appropriately, about our bodies and that kind of stuff, and what it is, and name it. And there'll be different degrees of it. In fact, I was visiting my daughter and our grandson. We were in a restaurant, and he went into the restroom, and he comes out, and I think he was 5, and he's just screaming, pornography, there's pornography in the bathroom. And I'm looking at the manager going, what's in your bathroom? I'm going to go check. And it was a girl in a 2-piece swimsuit, one of those old posters.
Right.
But to him,
right.
she wasn't appropriately dressed. So, we handled it really well and stuff. But we get to start talking about this, and where they're comfortable talking to us, because the biggest thing is the shame can be driven so much deeper. And this is a shame-driven disease, a lot more than drugs and alcohol.
Yeah, so when you're talking to a young kid, how do you avoid that shame? Because I imagine a lot of parents, in wanting to protect their kids, are like, don't think that, don't look at that, don't touch yourself, don't. So I mean, what's the
for me, you talk about it.
Yeah.
And you keep those lines of communication open where you are a safe place. If you're not a safe place to come to, and they know you're going to blow up or say, you know better than that, that's not what we do in this family. Well, obviously it is, because it's happening, so it's just a matter of accepting, reality, and that your kids, it's not if, but when they will see it, and prepare them.
Yeah.
And if you're late to the game, or if you messed up and you did yell at them and you've broken that trust, there's this great thing called making amends and repentance. And hey, I messed up.
I just talked about that on the last episode.
Oh, good.
Is just, for me, this is just my opinion, but the benefit in a child hearing a parent apologize when they made a mistake.
Powerful.
I'm like, I don't know. And maybe I do it too much, but if I lose my cool, I love just sitting them down and being like, hey, that was Dad making a mistake.
I messed up.
I love you guys.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
This would have been better. But, and maybe I'm prodding at this a little too much as someone with kids.
No, I get it.
Is what would be a healthy approach if your child stumbles upon pornography at a young age, and what's a healthy, or for us, it's like it's amazing how young kids talk about what they talk about now.
Yes.
Like my parents always thought our generation, oh man, you guys are talking about this when we were.
Put another 2 layers on that with my generation, right? Yeah.
And now it's like they'll come home and, yeah, so-and-so told me this. And we're like,
let's talk about it.
All right, I guess we're doing it.
And here we go.
My wife and I are both the same as far as being
Good.
open. It's not like, no, we'll deal with that another day, So we want them to hear it from us.
And it's not another thing. And they're going to, it's not a matter of, oh, you saw this, so you're bad. And that's what they hear. And I know you don't do that, but a lot of parents do. And if they hear, this is bad, well, I looked at it, so I guess that means I'm bad. And so that's why I don't like that verbiage. I like the verbiage of, this isn't going to take you in a direction you want to go. This is not this is not going to get you what you want. You want to stay with healthy connections and talk to real people, and
I like that.
and not, it's just all about that connection. Always going back to that connection. And if your kid can't come and talk to you safely, you get to make some switches and like shift around so that you can be that trusted person.
Yeah.
It's all about, can they come and talk to you?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
absolutely.
That's what, when I started dating my wife, I remember that was one of the first things I called attention to in her family is, I was like, how did your parents establish a relationship where you guys could go talk to them? Because I love my parents, but I would lie through my teeth before I would admit that I was doing drugs or did anything. I was like, no, I promised after 3 years or 3 hours of lecturing, I'd be like, okay, yes, I did it, But
that doesn't serve a relationship at all.
And aside from that, like I did have good relationships, but I was always impressed. Like my wife was like, oh, we'd go to a party and this would be happening, and we'd go straight home and just be like, Mom, this was there, because they knew there was no judgment following it. It was like, hey, do you think that was a good place to be? Do you think, like, how do you guys feel? It was more of a discussion based.
That's awesome.
So it was cool. And I've always been like, I just want to establish that open conversation.
And like I said, the sooner the better. But some moms or wives may be listening to this and going, well, oh man, I blew that one out of the water.
Yeah.
I really messed up. It's okay.
Yeah.
You get back up. It's just like anyone in addiction, just in life. We've got to get back up because our whole intention in life, hopefully, is to have strong connections with the human race, with people we love, our own families. That's what it's about. It's about the relationship. Right. It's not about, oh, well, you screwed up, so I am going to punish you by giving you the silent treatment for 2 hours. No, that's not long enough. It might go to a full day. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And that makes everybody miserable.
Right.
We love these people, and we make sure that they are safe to talk with us.
That. So just one follow-up question, because I really want to get back into your story, is let's say there's maybe a parent that says their right approach is this, I don't want to use the word abstinence, but just the idea that just to shield them from it, or like, because I feel like it's becoming harder and harder to parent that way, with the idea of just like, you're not going to see it, we're not going to talk about it. I just feel like it's not really doable anymore.
Exactly. It's not. It's not even close.
Yeah.
It's not even close. So the beauty of that part is when you have this conversation with the kids, that you're going to see this. Let's talk about it. I mean, there's going to be people dressed inappropriately, touching and that kind of stuff. And our bodies are special. And, I don't even think you need to get into religiosity about this.
Right.
Sometimes that messes us up even more. I'm just going to say that.
Yeah.
So if my bishop hears this, he can say. Okay. So.
Yeah, and that's a whole topic I'd love to touch on.
Yeah, and we'll touch on that too. But just having that safe spot and letting them know that they are going to see it. And, okay, there is a universal law called the law of non-resistance. And we grow up thinking we have to resist. No, I'm not going there. I'm not touching this. Don't do this. If you do this, then you're a chewed up piece of gum. That was something that was told me once, and I'm going,
that makes me sick.
No, I'm not. We're getting better. And I'm not talking about any religion that is faith-based. We want a connection with God. But we have this stupid idea that if we make a mistake, we've disconnected from God. We've never disconnected from him. He's always there. We might pull away because we feel shame or whatever, but that's not the point. But just having the idea that non-resistance, there's a scripture that's really good. It's in John, and I forgot what it is, but it talks about that we don't resist evil. And the first time I read that, I'm going, are they saying what I think they're saying? Are they saying don't resist evil? That's exactly what Christ was saying. And what that means is we recognize that it's there. It's not that we run to it, but if we realize it's there and we go, this is an option for me. I could definitely do that. But if that's an option, so's this. Because the more we resist, the more it will persist.
Right.
If we're resisting food, I'm not. So where's your focus? It's on food. I'm not going to look at pornography. No. I don't want to go there. I already said I wasn't going to go there. I said it 2 million times. And here I am again. But go, instead, don't resist it. Go, I'm not resisting anymore. It's that letting go thing. If I let go and not resist, then that's not where my focus is anymore.
Right.
Then I can turn my back on the darkness and focus on the light.
Right.
But if I'm resisting, that's where all my focus is. We
like
call it white knuckling.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like the think of anything but an elephant right now.
Hello. There's that elephant over and over. Exactly. And that's where our focus is. But when we start to, and again, we're not running to, Jerry said I don't have to resist it, so I can just go to it. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying Jerry said, no. So, but when we let go of that resistance, our world opens up and we have options.
Right.
We live in the world of possibilities. And sometimes we just get this tunnel vision that we think it has to look a certain way. Our lives don't have to look any certain way. My life has taken so many changes and turns. I've changed careers 4 times. And every time it's just kind of, look what I'm doing. This rocks. This is awesome.
Right.
It doesn't have to look a certain way.
Yeah.
We're not, in my parents' generation, you went to school, you learned a trade, and you stayed with it for 50-something years till you retire. No, not interested in that.
Yeah.
I'm going to do what works for me.
Right.
And what works for me in this stage of my life is sharing my story and assisting other people that may be experiencing the same thing.
Right.
And letting them know that there's hope.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Beautiful.
There's hope.
I like that.
All over the place.
So in your own personal experience,
Yes.
you mentioned the just noticing something was off.
Things were off, and I didn't know what it was until I just, because my husband, and if you look at our website, it's Desert Solace, desertsolace.com. You look at it, he tells his story, I tell my story, and he says, I was going to take this secret to my grave. I didn't tell anybody. And then here he is, ruined a first marriage. And it wasn't so much that he was acting out, like with other women or prostitutes or anything, but there was a zero connection. Zero connection. So we get together. He's awesome to me, but man, there's something missing. So finally I can't remember if I just flat out asked her. I think he told me. He said, well, this is what I'm dealing with. And my response, because I hadn't dealt with a lot of addiction in my life, I didn't know what I didn't know.
Right.
And I says, okay, that's easy. Just stop it. Someone goes, I tried that hundreds of times. Yeah, that's not the answer.
I didn't think of
we
that.
got into a program where at least I got some education. We got some therapy, some counseling. We did some outpatient stuff for a while. It wasn't enough. My husband's shame was so deep. So his acting out level, he had one therapist say, your acting out level is probably a 5 out of 10, but your shame level is a 20. So his shame level was so deep that, that's why he wasn't willing to tell anyone, and feared that I would leave him.
Right.
And what wives get to be really clear with their husbands is say, you know what? I can pretty much deal with almost anything if you're honest with me. All we want is honesty, for them to be their word. That's the key. So when he came out and said, okay, this is the deal, and then we made commitments, I want honesty. And so he was very, very honest with me, but he wasn't progressing. He was still sliding back. And to the point where I was worried for his life. He hated himself that much. I'm going, well, this isn't, and I'm kind of like a bull in a china closet. And so I'm a control freak in recovery. I'm getting much better, but I go, okay, well, this isn't working, so let's try this. And then finally, we figured out through mutual friends that he had to get an inpatient treatment.
Right.
Get away from the stressors of life, work solely on him. And I was willing to take this journey knowing that I had work to do. The wives that drop off their guys and say, just fix him. Oh, no, don't waste your time or money if that's your attitude.
Right.
You're going to get on my weekly calls. I'm going to coach you. We do wise retreats. We just connect like crazy.
Oh, cool.
And so I'm teaching them a lot of the Desert Solace principles that their spouses are learning, or their son.
What's that like on the other end? We're talking a lot about what it's like for an addict. What's it like on your end as a spouse?
Yeah.
What did you feel when you discovered that?
Okay.
Because that's something I'm trying to dig into more on mental health.
Yes.
You're so focused on what you're going through that I remember one day thinking like, what is this like for Allie? You know,
Yes, exactly.
how does she feel in this? Does she feel like she must not be
enough,
complete?
Exactly.
What's it like?
Especially, and again, with drugs and alcohol, it's like, okay, he likes drugs and alcohol. But when it's pornography and goes into, and can escalate into strip clubs, prostitutes, affairs, it can escalate into more, more stuff that's salacious things on the computer that are just, and then they can get in trouble legally. I mean, it can escalate. Drugs, anything can escalate when they go, oh, well, this isn't doing it for me enough, so I'm going to here. But for the wives, when it's of a sexual nature, it's like triple pain because it's like, why is he seeking it here? What is wrong with me that I'm not giving? So a lot of wives have a misconception that, well, if I'm nicer, if I give him sex more, if I'm da-da-da-da-da-da-da. No, set the frickin' boundaries. And that's what I'm really good at. Yeah. And so I coach wives from all over the world.
Yeah.
And, really teaching them about, and there's some good books out there too, about doing healthy boundaries. And boundaries, again, are not punishment.
Yeah.
It's what you get to do for you for safety because you can't control him.
So what do some of those look like?
A lot of them look like, okay, so if you... if I said to my husband, okay, Mark, if you do this, this is what I will do. And Mark was just so willing, and I'm so fortunate because a lot of husbands can be resistant and, I can do this by myself, and you don't need to set that boundary or it looks controlling to me. And the wives get to say, well, I don't care how it looks. This is what I'm going to do. Yeah. We get to take a stand for who we are, just as they're working on taking a stand for who they are.
Yeah.
Because we're not above them.
Right.
And a lot of wives will put themselves in this position. Well, I don't do this, I'm taking the moral high ground.
I've recently learned a lot about that with, I think it was called hierarchical relationships. You know all about that. But it goes both ways. So it's either like you just said, it ties into what you said, like I'm right, you're wrong, or I'm wrong, you're right. And the key is to getting on an equal, where you're on the same plane, equal playing ground. But how do you do that with, well, that's what's hard, because like, how do you do that with setting boundaries without them feeling it's that, but at the same time, it's like, it's got to be that, because
as they get healthier, they'll get that. As the addict gets healthier, he will get, because he's going to be learning to set his own self-directed boundaries.
Right.
And so as she's doing that, and this is what I tell him, I says, you tell him, I'm setting this boundary because I'm still invested in our relationship. I still want to be married to you. If I wasn't setting this boundary, I'd just kick your butt out the door and we'd be done.
Yeah.
But I don't want that. I want this to work. So I'm willing to take a journey, but I'm willing to look at myself and my own self-limiting beliefs and get the help that I need. We recommend that wives get into some treatment too. A lot do. It's really good.
Yeah.
If you find a good therapist. And there's some great therapists out there and there's some not great therapists.
Right.
So it's okay to therapy shop.
Switch it up.
Oh yeah. If it's not working for you, get out of that door and go to a different one. There's phenomenal therapists.
Right.
But they got to be willing to do their work and understand what a healthy boundary looks like. And it might be, if this happens, you're maybe out of the bedroom for a time. And I want to touch on time limits. A lot of people think, and I've heard this from therapists, I've heard it from church leaders. Well, for example, maybe you can't participate in this ordinance, whether they do a sacrament or something, for 2 weeks. If you can stay sober for 2 weeks, then you can do that.
Right.
You're asking for trouble. Don't do a time limit. It's all about progress and moving forward. And if you have a church leader that is putting time limits on it, like in my faith, a lot of young men serve missions, and maybe they're struggling with this, and the bishop will say, well, if you can stay sober for a year. Well, I want to say, well, can you not yell at your wife or your kids for a year? Can you be perfect for a year?
That's so good.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
We are not about perfection.
Yeah.
I mean, we're working towards connection and working towards getting closer to God, not further away.
Right.
Because then they slip up, right? Is their time limits getting close? And they're starting over from square one. Oh, no.
So what, I guess, how, when setting like healthy boundaries, how do you do it in a way where they're going to be like, oh, I messed up, so I'm just going to keep it to myself because I messed up that boundary?
That's the problem. That's where there's no connection.
Right.
Because if he's going to keep hiding that to himself, he's not in recovery.
Right.
It's all honesty, being their word, and being accountable is the foundation of recovery. If they're not keeping their word and being accountable, in other words, well, I did this because my boss yelled at me, or you yelled at me. They go into victim mode like nobody's business, and they've got to realize, nope, no more victim. And the wives got to get out of that too. We live our lives, the human race lives their lives as victims.
Yeah.
That's why we're in the mess that we're in sometimes.
It's got to be hard as the spouse to not switch into that, like, I didn't make this mistake. I didn't do it, so it's on you.
That's why
I don't have anything to work on.
That's why, like, a wife will call me, and her husband, he has graduated from Desert Solace, and they're just still, it's not like Desert Solace is the magic bullet and no. It's like you've had the surgery. Now you take care of it, and you have a healthier lifestyle going on. So there's no more Band-Aids to just cover it up. We're ripping off that Band-Aid, and we're doing emotional, relational, spiritual surgery without anesthesia. Which is the drug, which is the pornography, which is where they go to escape the pain. No, there's no more of that.
Yeah.
We're going right through. You've got to go through the pain of what's causing, because the addiction is just a symptom.
Yeah.
It's not even the problem. It's just a symptom of a deeper problem.
Right.
And that's what we go after.
Well, and I think that's so good what you just said, because I think a lot of people could look at pornography, especially men, and justify it like, oh, you're treating me like a child. Like I have to face my computer towards the door now. I have to do, all these little things. But the root is addiction.
Yes.
Like it's...
And like I said, as he gets healthier, he's going to want that. Because he gets to figure out what he wants. Does he want that relationship with his wife? If he doesn't, move out and look at all the pornography you want. That's your choice.
Yeah. I
don't think it's going to work for you.
Right.
But you can make that choice. Yeah. We live in choice moment to moment to moment. So a wife can say, I'm not feeling very comfortable. I want to be connected to you, but I don't when you're looking at your phone when I'm trying to have a conversation with you.
Right.
And so my husband and I have a boundary. He loves to play games on his phone. He's got ADD. He says it helps settle his brain down and all that stuff. So
it does help a lot.
Whether you're scribbling or playing a game on your phone, but we have a boundary that if I'm talking and I will say, is this a good time to talk for a minute? Or are you open? We like the words, are you open?
Yeah.
That means, are you in a position, not that I'm going to rip him a new one, but are you open for a conversation? The phone goes down and we have eye-to-eye contact. Then I feel connected and I feel that he's interested in what I have to say.
Yeah,
and so, just keep talking. That doesn't work for us.
Yeah, I'm
so it can be a little boundary like that. It doesn't have to be, oh my gosh, you had sex with someone. So, with me, I'd be gone.
Yeah.
So I was really clear on what my rock bottoms were. Some women, their rock bottom is a lot more lenient than mine. We're all different, like what you said.
Right.
Mine was, if you have a slip, report it. And I don't even want him to report it to me. Report it to your sponsor or report it to your therapist.
Right.
Because I'm not your frickin' dumping ground. Some wives like to know all that stuff in details. I call that pain shopping. It doesn't serve them. They absolutely get to be accountable, but I don't know if the wife should be their accountability buddy. And that's a whole different thing. Do they get to have honesty if they ask the question? Absolutely.
There you go. Yeah.
Absolutely. But to know every detail and I don't think that serves at all.
Yeah. That's super interesting. Yeah. And it's probably everyone's customized different for what
absolutely
they're
yeah, and hopefully they're on the same page.
Yeah.
But what I've learned is when guys come out of Desert Solace and the wife's done her work and they continue to he gets on the alumni calls, which are twice a week. They get on my wife's calls, and we are just continuing to just build that relationship. And we're going to fall backwards. We fall backwards in everything.
Right.
Whether it's with kids or yelling or whatever.
So the last question I have relating to that is, this probably looks different for everybody, but how do you get someone, whether it's drugs, alcohol, pornography, to take that initial step of lowering their shame for what they're doing and want to take those steps, because if it's so rooted in shame, I'm imagine the backsliding just puts you right back into the...
That's where they need treatment.
Okay.
This is not something that can be prayed away. You can't read your scriptures enough. You can't, if I do this and this, and if I sing more church songs, I'll get it. No, it doesn't work that way, because the brain has been hijacked. This is a disease. This is an actual disease where the brain's been hijacked, and not that that's an excuse. But I'll let the wives know, let him take this process. Let him come and heal, because they say it takes 45 days just to start changing the brain path. So, and just to clear out the brain so that they're even really processing properly. And then the other 45 days to really instill all those beliefs about themselves of who they really are.
Right.
Not who they've been told they are, or who they believed, all those false beliefs. We get to just peel those away just like an onion.
That's cool.
It's awesome.
I like that. So I'm assuming your guys' story wasn't just smooth sailing right from the start.
It was smoother than a lot. And the reason, there was two reasons. Number one, I was really clear. If you don't have clarity on what you want, no one's going to be clear, including your kids, including anybody. We just get to have clarity. So I had clarity. Mark had clarity. He was willing to do whatever it took, including going clear across the country to do a rehab.
Yeah.
And he went, and he was willing to do that. I was willing to do my part. I was willing to work on myself, to go to some meetings, to get some therapy, figure out what my trauma has been, where I thought that I had to control everything around me. If I lost control, what do I have? So just to let go of that, and I just go, well, there you go. There's that. And with my kids and grandkids, and I've got grandkids, and my daughter's like, he's doing this, and I go, yeah, I mean, nothing shocks me, you know, but we just get to, this is their experience, and you have the conversation with them. Is this going to work in your life?
Yeah.
You're not bad. You're not sick. You're not wrong. This just isn't going to work.
Right.
So let's go for something that works.
Yeah.
And just let them know again that, and that's something that what Mark would say, because again, I was a fix-it person. And if he came home, I had a stressful day at work, and I would just go, well, did you do this and this and this, you know, and I was trying to fix it again. Once I got out of that mode, and I had to ask him, what is it that, how can I best assist you? And he goes, when I come home and I'm like, just put your arms around me, tell me it's going to be okay. I go, oh, that's it. I can do that. I mean, it's that simple.
Right.
It's going to be okay. I'm here. I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah.
And then all of those triggers and all of that, we call it going down the rabbit hole, where they just, you know, the shame, and they think about this, and there's pain, and then it's too late, and then they act out.
Right.
But then they get, if they've acted out, they get to report it.
Yeah.
To someone.
Yeah.
Not me.
So
I'm not
good.
the dumping ground. Wives should never be a dumping ground, because then guys will just unload, and then the wives are left with all this crap.
Yeah.
And the guy's
like,
I feel pretty good. Yeah, I just confessed. I'm feeling pretty good. And then she's just feeling like, you know.
Yeah.
So that's why we really recommend that they have a sponsor, that they keep in touch with their therapist. When they leave Desert Solace, we arrange for them to get a sponsor right off the bat.
Yeah.
So they have that support.
Right
off the bat.
So let's talk about Desert Solace. So it's when did you guys start this?
We started it 9 years ago.
Oh, cool.
And so Mark came out of rehab, and he said, I know what I'm supposed to do with my life. And I go, oh, what's that? And he goes, we are going to open a residential treatment center, inpatient, in St. George, Utah, for pornography and sex addiction. And my response was, I'm in.
Yeah.
We didn't have a penny, because he'd already blown up our other business.
Yeah.
I mean, with bad choices and not trusting himself and everything. But our intention was so clear. We talk a lot about intentions. Our intention was so clear, things just started falling in place.
Cool.
The money came. The right therapist came. The building fell into our lap. It just, and not that it was smooth sailing.
Right.
It wasn't. And we ate rice and beans for the first, year. But it was okay.
Yeah.
And our intention was clear, and then all of a sudden, Desert Solace was born.
That's so cool.
And we treated men from, I don't know how many states, 38, 40, in 6 different countries.
Whoa.
They find us. I know.
That's so cool.
It's so cool.
That's awesome.
It's so cool.
And so it's an inpatient therapy. That's
correct.
That's
we also have an outpatient that is here in St. George.
And you do youth outpatient too,
Youth
right?
outpatient, yeah. So 12 years old and up.
Okay.
And so we have a therapist there that that deals with that. And that's really great. So hopefully before it gets to the point where they drag this into a marriage or it prevents them from moving forward in their life.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But inpatient is 18 years old and up.
Oh, okay.
So we've had as
And
young
it's
as
90
18
day?
and as old as 73.
Okay. And it's 90
90 days.
right?
Yeah.
And then obviously you mentioned the calls after
Because
that.
the
and
aftercare,
check-ins
yeah, there's a lot of aftercare
yeah.
that goes on, and we figure out the aftercare plan for them because we want to stay connected.
So what's like the facility? Like say someone comes from New York or whatever, they're staying in a facility, or
They stay at our house.
Okay.
Oh yeah, we have a house. It's a treatment center, but
Yeah.
it's a house.
Yeah.
It's a very lovely house. We're licensed for 16 beds, but we like to keep it to no bigger than 12. We
Yeah.
just feel like we can treat them better.
Right.
We're on 5 acres. We have horses. They're assigned a horse when they get in to care for. They do equine therapy, which is a whole nother thing that's amazing.
Yeah.
Equine, which means horses.
Yeah.
They don't ride the horses maybe until the end, but it's experiential because horses are kind of magical and they can mirror things. And
Right.
so not only are they caring for the horse and shoveling up manure, I mean, they do that every day, but there's this connection. And guys will leave saying that the equine was one of their favorite parts. They eat healthy. We have a chef. We have, they go to yoga. They work out. They do some kind of physical activity 6 days a week
Yeah.
because that's critical.
Yeah.
Because guys that come in and they're just let their bodies go and why would I take care of my body? I'm a piece of crap.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at porn as much as I can.
Yeah.
So it's holistic. We treat them physically, spiritually. And that spiritually is connecting to God, Heavenly Father, a higher power, whatever that is for them.
Yeah.
We had one guy come in and he goes, I want to go to the Buddhist church. And I says, well, there's not one. It's a philosophy, but I'll tell you what. So, but whatever church they have we make sure that they get to it. They'll go to a Catholic mass, and the guys all go together. So if we got one Catholic guy, everybody goes to a Catholic mass one week, evangelical the next, LDS the next, a Baptist the next, whoever we have there, we facilitate where they want to be.
Yeah. The journey they want to take.
Whatever, yeah. And if they don't want to go to church, too bad. That's where the band's going. They're going somewhere, sorry.
They're going somewhere.
Get over it.
Yeah, I like that a lot. That's awesome. So, man, there's so many questions I have, but what is I'm sure it's hard to track, but what does...
Our recidivism rate?
There you go.
There you go. Okay. Let me help you out here.
There you go. You just take over from here.
You know what?
Recidivism.
And we do keep track. The guys that stay connected to us, and they may not make the call every week, but they stay connected. Maybe they start with a therapist and go once a week, then it goes down to twice a month, once a month, then it goes to, whatever. Like my husband sees a therapist as needed, and it might be twice a year.
Yeah.
It might be, but he still hits some meetings once in a while. There's SA, Sexaholics Anonymous. AA has some great stuff. The LDS Church has a good program. I know the Catholic Church has a program. So, but they get to go to a meeting. It helps them be accountable. But a lot of people think a meeting is treatment. It's not. It's maintenance.
Right.
But meetings are critical. They're awesome, and a sponsor is critical. But the guys that do that, we're at 100% recovery.
Yeah. That's
And does it mean they have bumps in the road? Yeah.
Yeah.
But they're in recovery.
Right.
Are they 100% sober all the time? No. I mean, some of them think, if I even notice a woman, I'm not in recovery. I go, if you're not noticing a beautiful woman, you might as well be dead.
Yeah.
No, of course you notice. And
Yeah.
then it's what we do with that notice. Do you
Yeah.
objectify her? Do you fantasize about her? You just know that's a beautiful woman. And the wives get to do the same thing.
I imagine that you have to rewire your brain on even those things. I looked at a woman, or I looked at this, and
because they're going to beat themselves up because what they did with that. It's not that they
Yeah.
looked; it's what they did after. They fantasized or they
Right.
objectified. Where she's just an object, that she's not a human being.
Right.
That's objectification.
Right.
And that's not cool.
Right.
And so they get to, and that's why 90 days is appropriate too. And we bring them into town. I mean, they go to the gym and they notice, they objectify. Boy, we get processed on it.
Yeah.
They have like 3 or 4 group meetings a day plus individual therapy.
Right.
So there's a lot of calling out. And the buddies, they're just like a band of brothers where they just go, dude, you made this commitment.
Yeah, yeah.
You didn't even come close to making that commitment.
Yeah.
Being called out on that, on your peers of guys that are working together to get over this, is so much more powerful than a wife, a mom, or a bishop.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You're in it together.
Oh, you're in it
Through
together.
Yeah.
And they get it.
Yeah, you're in the trenches.
You're in the trenches together. And it's a glorious trench to be in.
Yeah, for sure.
Because it's forward moving and it's healing.
Well, it's taking this thing that you've attached so much shame to and
Yes.
and embarrassment, and it almost gives power back to you. And
Absolutely.
And it becomes something beautiful. Like
Yeah.
the recovery becomes.
And I can't tell you how many guys that have come out and they've spoken in their church, or they've spoken here. They've done, and they're not ashamed anymore. And they go, if I can help someone by being honest, that's living in recovery.
Yeah.
And people will do that to different degrees.
Right.
I mean, even just helping a friend out,
Right.
that's maybe struggling, or they hear about a friend. That's all. That's the 12th step, actually.
Right.
That's what we call the atonement in action, where you're serving people. You're taking what you've experienced and what you know and sharing it,
Right.
and helping someone else along the way.
Yeah, that's cool.
That's true recovery.
I guess these are 2 questions, but what for the people, whether it's a young person and they're struggling with this and they feel like, let's take a young person first.
Mm-hmm.
Like, let's say they, because there are a lot of young people that listen to this, maybe they listen to it and they feel like, I don't have the parents that I could talk to about this.
Mm-hmm.
What's some advice for them, or what are initial steps if they feel this heavy shame and they don't want to do this anymore, but they're like, I could never talk to my dad about this, or my mom, or.
And guess what?
Yeah.
That's a story they've made up.
Okay.
It may be true. It may be a fact.
Yeah.
And it may be a story. We've had that happen a lot where I could never even, my parents don't even know about this.
Yeah.
And we'll go talk to them about it. Tell them you've been struggling, not with pointing the finger or blame. You're not a victim to them.
Mm-hmm.
And you may be surprised at what happens. And really, seriously, 8, 9 times out of 10, those parents go, we just want you to be happy. We knew something. What can we do? What
Yeah.
can we do? So coming out of that shame and stepping through it takes a lot of courage.
Yeah.
But the courage is there. Sometimes we just don't tap into it.
Mm-hmm.
Courage is a gift from God. We've got it. We have love. We have peace. But how often do we tap into those things? They're almost there. We don't even have to create it. It's already there. It's already in every one of us. Okay, I'm choosing to tap into courage. I'm stepping through. Maybe it's to go to an ecclesiastical leader, finding out if he can help with some kind of professional help with therapy or something. They've got to step through that shame and step through that fear to get to the other side. The only way out is through. It's the only way out. You can't go under, around, or over.
What can someone do that may not have a financial means of a treatment center or something like that? Where
That's a problem because treatment is expensive.
Yeah.
And residential treatment, because it costs a lot there's a lot of expenses, a lot of overhead.
For sure.
And so a lot of people have asked for family help, and it may not be the parents, but they might ask for family help. We've had people that have just said, oh my gosh, you've got this problem? Here, let me give you, I've got so many stories. Let me give you $5,000 towards it. Let me help you on this. When they come and say, oh my gosh, I've struggled with that too, let me assist you. We're pretty creative. We've taken things in on trade.
Yeah.
Cars. Somebody wanted, and I go, I don't want your guns. I've already got my own. But, so people have sold things to get, it's like, I don't know if I could take the time off work. We've had guys come in with 5, 6, 7 kids, figured out how to pay for them while they're gone for 3 months, plus treatment. We just believe if they're supposed to be there, there will be doors that will be opened. So they ask for help. One guy put his story on Facebook. He raised enough in a month to come to treatment. People just donate. It wasn't even a GoFundMe. It was just a Facebook thing, and told his story.
That's what's so cool is I think speaking specifically what I can speak to of mental illness is that's what I think a lot of people are surprised about is they feel that shame and embarrassment. So they keep quiet about mental illness. That's why a lot of suicide happens.
Absolutely.
But then I think a lot of people, it might not always go their way, but majority of people realize when they do, like you said, tap into that courage and they finally speak out about it, they receive so much love back. And
They're
they might
surprised.
It's surprising. And for me, like, doing a podcast is the last thing I would have done like 5 years ago. I would have never thought that, but it's wild how hearing the stories, letting people share their stories and it opens the door and it there's something interesting about it of, I don't know, just kind of just closing the door on the shame and then feeling like it empowers you a little bit.
So I'm moving forward.
Yeah.
It takes commitment.
Yeah.
It takes commitment and courage. But it's the way to go.
Yeah.
And is it hard? Yeah. But guess what? Living in the crap that addicts live in is 100 times worse.
Yeah.
So, but they do. I'm not minimizing that courage at all.
Right.
And it takes wives courage to say, okay, I'm willing to give this another shot because I do want to save our family. And there's been lots of families that are just Desert Solace groupies.
Yeah.
And that's so great because then they're helping other people and they're reaching out with what they've been taught.
Right.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
This is how we shift. This is how we shift the world.
Right.
It's coming out of our shame, having the courage to reach out and say, this is what I've done. This is where I am. This is where I've been.
Yeah.
And I'm going forward.
One thing I loved what you related to an ecclesiastical leader is where they're like, don't do this for a year, don't do this. And
don't do time limits.
I loved what you said though about, is like, okay, then you go a year without yelling at your wife.
Yeah.
You know?
Hello. Oh, you're perfect now? Okay.
Because I love how it's like, I'm thinking of that in terms of addiction and mental illness, where it's like, I don't have that problem, but it's like, yeah, but we all have issues.
Stuff.
We all have things.
Absolutely.
So it's like, let's just,
Absolutely.
It's a give and take process.
That's where that level thing comes in, and that hierarchy that we talked about.
Right.
There are no levels.
Right.
There are no levels.
We're all just trying to do our best.
And guess what? We go together.
Yeah.
We go together.
Right.
No one gets to go by themselves because it doesn't work.
Yeah.
That's why we're in families, and some of our families are dysfunctional. I get all that. Okay. But it doesn't mean I have to be a victim to them.
Right.
Ever. And it might be, you breaking the chain of the cycle of addiction.
Yeah.
Because it can be passed on through generations.
Yeah. Well, maybe we could just end, and obviously at the end you can add anything you feel we didn't cover, but what would you say first to a spouse who's doesn't have the addiction but is going through this? And then what would you say to somebody listening to this that is going through this, hasn't told anybody?
Right.
So starting with a spouse.
The spouse, so the spouse, she gets to reach out for help. She's been traumatized. Her husband's been traumatized somewhere along the road. Maybe she's been traumatized earlier. Maybe there's a reason that she was there's a lot of things, a lot of backstories that can be going on, but there again, it's just stories. So get over your story and reach out for help. They can call me. They can go to our website, Desert Solace. And if it's an addict, they can talk to Mark. Sometimes the addict themselves likes to talk to me because what's my wife going through?
Right.
And then I will encourage her to call me. A lot of times it's the wives that call Mark. My husband's doing this. He's too embarrassed to call you. So everybody gets to step out of their shame and just, here we go. Because we got to start moving forward, that they call and reach out for help. If they've already, a lot of people will say, well, they don't need residential treatment unless they're really bad or unless it's really gone off the rails. I don't believe that. Let's nip it in the bud. Let's get it, if they're 18 and they're struggling and they want to pursue their life, whether it's with education, marriage, church service, whatever that is, let's get everything in alignment. We talk a lot about alignment. Everyone gets to be in alignment, spiritually and physically and emotionally and financially, all of it. It all goes together. It's all connected. But reach out for help.
Yeah.
There are 12-step meetings that are available. Some are better than others. I've been to some that are just wives only, and it's just a husband bashing session. I'm going, no.
Well, this isn't
and
helpful.
I'm very outspoken, and I'm not even in charge of the meeting. I used to be. But anyway, I just go, this doesn't work. Mm-hmm. Why are you bashing them? Why are you not even taking care of yours? If you're bashing him that much, then leave him.
Yeah.
Or make this work, or figure out how to get some help. But reach out for help. Might want to start with a therapist. I am such a proponent of inpatient. I have a daughter that struggled with heroin. She was a heroin addict for several years. Can be as challenging to beat as that. This is tough. Mm-hmm. There was a church leader, his name was Elder Oaks, and he wrote a talk he spoke of addiction. He says, I had a friend that was addicted to meth. No, it was cocaine. And he was a sex addict. And he said the cocaine was a lot easier to recover from. Mm-hmm. So it's not something that can just be wished or prayed away. It really has made an impact on the brain. But reach out for help. And anyway, talking about my daughter, we wouldn't send her to once a week counseling. She had to get away from all the stressors of life. Granted, her dealers as well. Mm-hmm. Where in pornography you may not have a dealer, but your dealer's your phone. So guess what? You're not going to have your phone. There's no electronics. Clear the brain out, learn it. And then the last couple of weeks that they're in treatment, we give them back their phone so that they can have it with support. Because we just don't want to throw it at them at the end. So everything we do has a big purpose. Right. But the main thing I would tell the wives is reach out. Reach out for help. They can call me. I can suggest a place to go. I can suggest good therapists. Or call Mark. We're just good resources.
Right.
So if you call and you're not even thinking about residential treatment, we're still really good resources because we've both been there.
Yeah.
We've lived it.
Yeah. And
I get what she feels like. And Mark really gets what he feels like. Mm-hmm. So we're just there.
That's so cool what you guys are doing.
We're just there.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Is there anything you want to add before we end?
Let's see. Anything you want to add?
I feel like
that's your last sentence. Let's see.
I feel like we need to do
the advice to the suffering is that they reach out.
Yeah.
That the days of isolating are over.
Right.
There's people out there that are, and they think I'm the only one. Oh my gosh. This is a pandemic.
You know what? I realized that too, speaking up about it, you join a community.
Absolutely.
And you're like, I would have done this forever ago. I'm not alone.
There's
they do. So many people.
Why didn't I do this years ago?
Yeah.
Because you didn't. Because you're doing it now.
You're doing it now. Yeah.
We don't do the shoulds. I should have done this. I should have done that. And we go, quit shoulding all over yourself and let's move forward. And the past is the past. Let's leave it there. We can learn from it.
Yeah.
But quit living there with all this regret and all this beat up and all this blame. And quit future tripping.
Yeah. I love that.
Be present.
Awesome.
Yeah.
We got to do another one of these. I feel like there's
more
topics.
Let's do more.
So I appreciate your time, Jerry.
And thanks for inviting me.
Maybe just tell us where people can find website. Is there social media outlets?
Yes. You can find us desertsolace.com. We're on Instagram. We're on Facebook. Just go to Desert Solace. Go to the website. You'll see my phone number. I'm Jerry. My husband's name is Mark. We are the founders. We're the owners. We do all the intake. We don't hire salespeople. People call us and we go, yep, I get it. Yeah. I've been there. And that's what we do. And that's
cool.
That's what we do. And it's awesome.
Well,
so
I'm
they
so
just
glad
got to
you
reach
guys are
out.
out there helping people.
Thanks.
Yeah.
It's fun work.
Cool. Thanks so much, Jerry, for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me.
You bet.
It was fun.
All right, everybody. I hope you enjoyed that episode. Thank you so much, Jerry, for your time, for coming on our podcast. I had such a great time chatting with her. And I'm so excited for what her and her husband, Mark, are doing. Again, you can check out betterhelp.com/inmyhead to get a free week of online counseling by professional therapists. You can change that anytime. It's from the comfort of your own home. And then go to cbdmd.com, type in the promo code IMH15, get 15% off all your CBD products from them. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening. Like and subscribe, all that stuff. I don't even have to say that anymore. I appreciate the time you take more than anything to listen to these episodes and sharing it with people if you think it will help them. Thanks so much for checking this out.